Welcome to Democracy-ish. I'm Danielle Moody, and we're living in The Handmaid's Tale. It was a documentary. It's not even funny anymore, Democracy-ish. But Waj is back, and that's the good news on a Monday.
We had to start late, and now Danielle's sitting on the floor with a pillow without any back support because this is a symbolic state of America.
Yes.
Starting late, everything is glitched. Danielle is sitting on the floor. Don't ask us why, but she's making it work. We're leaning in. We're doing our best to improvise. You know, who needs to fly anymore? We could just, I don't know, put each other in a cannonball, aim, and just try for the best. I have to go on a flight later today to the Bay Area. Will I make it? Inshallah, I'll let you know in a couple hours. Let's see. This is what happens when you elect the world's most corrupt, incompetent people. And Danielle, I was just thinking about this, I don't even want to be upset anymore because
Yeah,
there's
it's
just too much stuff
exhausting.
happening. I got kids. I'm tired.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to be upset, you're going to be upset about so much in the world. But all this could have been avoided.
Yep.
And this dumbass country decided to vote for the man who already incited a violent insurrection, who
Mm-hmm.
already tanked the economy, who already lied to us in a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic that ends up killing about more than 1 million Americans, is a serial liar.
Yep.
And they're like, it's either between this man or a competent Black Indian woman. Democrats also effed up many times. We've mentioned it. We'll mention it again today. But pretty clear to us. We tried our best. We're like, you know what? Just vote for Kamala. You don't have to be passionate about it. No one has to be passionate about it. But you have a competent individual.
Mm-hmm.
You and I could have slept. You would be sitting in a chair. I wouldn't be worried. I wouldn't be worried about ICE tackling me while, I don't know, just traveling for work for a speech later today. We wouldn't have to worry about exploding gas, helium, fertilizer, oil prices due to an unnecessary war. We wouldn't have measles running rampant throughout the country. But this country,
Mm-hmm.
in its murder-suicide, said we would rather destroy ourselves than to actually expand the American dream and include immigrants and Palestinians and Muslims and workers and trans people. We would rather kill ourselves. And actually, to be fair, Daniel, let's be honest, because I
Mm-hmm.
talked to some of these people because it was Eid, right? So we'll talk about it later.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We would rather you die because they all thought, if we're are to be fair,
Yep.
you'll die,
Yes.
not us.
Right.
We'll be okay. And you
Mm-hmm.
and I kept saying, oh, no, no, no. Fascists come for everyone. Everyone's going to be effed. And now, Danielle, can you tell them what's happening at the airports?
So here's the thing. Here's the thing. First, like, because everything that you just said, I've been thinking about it all weekend long. I've been thinking about it because I went out. It was a friend's birthday. Went out to go to Shenandoah Valley. So came down from DC. I take the train. Thank God didn't have to fly. And as I'm driving out into Shenandoah Valley, which, folks, is about 90 minutes outside of Washington, D.C., it's beautiful, mountains, all of these things,
Really pretty.
farmland, cows everywhere. And as I'm driving, I'm seeing Charlie Kirk Memorial. I'm seeing Trump's name spray painted in a bale of hay. I'm seeing Trump, tattered Trump flags. And I just started to feel more and more unsafe. Like, the further out into what is supposed to be, restful, beautiful space that I've gone to many, many of times. But then I looked and I'm saying, these flags are tattered. The spray paint is kind of like fading, right? Like, these are people that had this idea of who this man was. I don't know why people who are farmers found any connection to Donald Trump, who is a billionaire born with a platinum spoon in his mouth, has never worked a day, didn't fight in a war, doesn't know what it is to strive, to create, to do anything. What connection other than racism that they have with this man? And how strong the bond is of white supremacy. But you can see in the tattered flags that they had, like, it's like their dreams, their vision, their ideas are that emblematic, right, of this fading, crumbling country that we're now in. That a year and 3 months into this second term, the devastation that has been caused. And people are saying, I saw a post earlier today, Waj, before we go to the airports. I saw a post earlier today that said Hitler died in 1945 And Germany wasn't right until around 1980, right? Like after the like into the 80s that
Yep.
Germany began, and I mean, right, like began to kind of rebound through generations of trauma, through all of these things. 45 to the 80s. That's 40 some odd years. So they're like, if Trump were to resign, die, what have you now, how long would it take for America to recover was the question. And I'm like, and this is a question I want people to really think about. What has happened is not going to take a year or the next cycle or midterms or the next presidential to get rid of. Like it's the stench, the rot is so extraordinarily deep, right? And potent and so revealing in what Donald Trump has showed us about the core of America that I don't think that we recover in our lifetimes. I don't even know what I mean, what we are thinking when we say quote unquote recover. You're muted.
I've been thinking about that over the weekend, and I don't want to depress people, but I call it as I see it. And if there's new facts that emerge, then I change my analysis. But what we're looking at right now, folks, and we'll go through it, not to depress you. The best analogy I can give is if there's a comet coming in the sky, there's some people saying, that comet will miss us, everything will be fine. Then there's other people who say, what comet? Then there are people who say, it's over, we're all dead. I'm of the opinion that I'm the person who says there's a comet coming in the sky. All the data shows that the comet's going to hit Earth. All the data shows that a lot of people are going to die. Our job is to blast that comet out of the sky. And if we can't blast that comet out of the sky, then we have to minimize the damage and protect as many people as possible. Okay? I say that looking at the United States of America. There's a comet coming. The comet has already landed in small pieces, right? It's kind of broken off and caused damage. I don't know if we can avoid the comet anymore. I don't think we could blow it out of the sky. I think it's going to land. And I think a lot of people are going to be harmed. And I think it's going to be generational damage. So I say that, and not as a cynic, quite the opposite, just as a realist. Looking at it, looking at the numbers, looking very calmly, talking to people for the last several months in different sectors, in the medical sector, in the financial sector, in the government sector, national security sector, media sector, which is what we're in, I guess. Generational damage is already done. Generational damage. And to be more honest, generationals, a word I just made up.
Exactly.
Damage. Yeah. I'm 45. Who knows how long I live? Who knows if I see the it turn back? I don't know if it does turn back, but maybe it does, because the United States, compared to other countries, has enough resources, has a big population, still has more wealth than most. But we did it to ourselves, folks. And so I think what people have to realize is they have to stop suffering from a failure of imagination. I think this is very key. You have to look up and see the comet, and you have to acknowledge the comet is coming. And the comet has splintered off and it's landed with ice on the streets and ice at airports and measles and a complete hulling of the bureaucracy and the complete culling of intelligent people in government. We're going to see a weakened, isolated, chaotic America, and we refuse to confront our demons and sins. Instead, we indulge in it. And all I have is "I told you so," which gives me no joy. So now it's up to all the people who thought it won't affect them. The rich people, the white people, the rich people includes brown and black people. I'll talk to you about Eid real quick before we talk about what's happening in the airports and give you our examples. So, full circle, right? So it's Eid celebrations. It was Eid on Friday. It's the end of Ramadan, end of fasting, the last 2-3 days, very lovely community stuff, which is why I look so exhausted. I had to take my kids to like 7 things broken.
You said you went to 15 Eids.
Yeah,
and I'm like, how much did you eat? How long well, first of all, tell people what the culmination of Ramadan is.
Well, yeah, exactly. So Ramadan is a month. It's a holy month for 30 days or so, depending on the moon. You're supposed to fast from sunrise to sunset, roughly. No water, no sex, no food. From sunrise to sunset. Afterwards, you guys can't do that, right? So people are like, because people are like, no water for 30 days. How are you human? So, you're supposed to be, and it's not just fasting. You're just supposed to be a good person. So you fast from anger, rage,
Okay.
miserliness. You pray a bit more, give to your community, right? So the culmination of the 30 days, very special month, is Eid. It's literally a celebration. So Friday, I'm sure you saw all these
Hmm.
really attractive people blinged out, dressed up,
I
all
mean,
this
the
diversity.
fits were fitting on
Yeah,
social media. They were fitting. The outfits were gorgeous.
yeah. Everyone dresses up, tip top, food. It's really lovely. And so at these Eid events, I went to the same one that, if you remember, Danielle, I went to last year, right after Trump was elected. Some
Yes,
of these
yes.
individuals came
Mhm,
up to me,
mhm.
some of the dads who were middle class, educated. Now I would say upper class to upper middle class. What do we do? So I gave my analysis. I said, listen, I think things are going to be really bad. I remember I said this last year, Daniel.
Mhm.
You're asking me. Since you've asked me, I would hold on to my passport. I would make as much money as possible. I would
Mhm.
make sure I have assets. I would have
Mhm.
some cash in the house. I think things are going to get a lot worse. If I have a kid going to an Ivy League school, I would tell them, be careful. Sit down with them and give them the talk, but like
Yep.
the college version of the talk,
Yep.
right? And I would say, if you or your spouse have citizenship like Canada or somewhere else, flex that a little bit, lean into it. I think it's going to get far worse. Now, what happened? Some of their wives came up to me, said, my husband just came and said, you said we have to have cash and property. Can you please stop freaking out my husband? And I'm like, my bad, my bad. And then as I was going home to my wife, I was driving and I'm like, Sarah, a couple of these wives came up to me and said, I'm freaking out there. I stand by what I said, Sarah. They asked me for advice. That's the advice I gave them. Hope I am wrong. Okay. Now you fast forward 1 year.
Mhm.
Some of those same people, Danielle, were at the
Mhm.
same event hosted by the same person. Guess what they said?
You were right.
Man, you were right. And then I said, I get no joy from this, Danielle. What do you want me to do? They're like, you're right. And guess what? Instead of becoming like flaming liberals, they're not becoming flaming liberals, Danielle. We'll talk about it later. They're becoming anti establishment, radicalized individuals who are just pissed at the system.
Yeah, I think that it's extraordinary. This is the most unfortunate, avoidable fuck around and find out moments that this country has ever seen. Because when you gave the analogy of the comet, right, which is essentially don't look up. And you honestly, let's be honest. We were pointing to the sky 10 years ago and saying to folks, the scientists say there is a comet that is coming. That comet was Donald Trump coming down the escalator calling Mexicans rapists and murderers. And we said it's going to hit the core of America if we don't pay attention to what's going on. You, me, so many people pointing to the sky saying it's coming. It's headed towards us. So I don't even think that now it is about like, oh, is the comet going to hit us? It struck.
Yeah.
It struck, and we're living in the reverberations. We're living in the hole, in the lava that was created from it landing, not once, but twice. Right. And so, for these people who were just like, oh, it's not going to be that bad. And I'm just like, what were you looking at? Or what were you refusing to look at? Because there was no indication from the first administration that said to you when this man celebrated white nationalists, when he ripped up the Iran deal that Barack Obama, bipartisan global deal that he put together with Iran, when he ripped that up, when he was destabilizing markets after his first term, he put the country in $7 trillion more of debt. So what did you see between 2017 and 2020 that would have allowed you to believe that given more power that things wouldn't have gotten extraordinarily worse? Because in the first term he didn't know what he was doing, and in the midst of that, in between that 10-year of us pointing to the sky, they created a manual to direct the comet where to land with the most impact. And that was called Project 2025. And so when we look at things that happened this morning,
They ain't talking about me. That's what it was. They ain't talking
yeah,
about me.
I mean, it was 900 pages. They were talking about everyone, right? And so here's what happens this morning. On top of the horrific lines that are lasting 5 hours, I had a friend of a friend flew from Atlanta, from Hartfield, Atlanta's airport, to New York last night. Waj, ask me how many hours they stood in line.
6.
5.
Wow. That
Five
was close.
hours and didn't even get to the full destination. Literally flew to New York, got off the plane, called their friend and said, "I need a break. Can I come and stay at your place for the night because I'm trying to still make my way?" As if we're travelers in the 18th century, right? I need a place to rest my head because I've been traveling for 6 hours on a flight that should be 2 hours. So this is what happens this morning. Jet collides with fire truck. 2 pilots are killed with Air Canada. Multiple people inside of this small, it's a small jet carrier. If you've ever flown between on the East Coast to Canada, small carriers carry about 80 folks. This is what happened. There's been release of the audio that is played with the air traffic controller, who, by the way, these folks are working incredibly long hours. There was an air traffic control problem before this administration came into power. They exacerbated it, and people are
Can we just remind people, thanks to Elon Musk and Doge and
right.
cost cutting.
People are doing jobs of multiple people at a time. So the audio that is being circulated has the air traffic controller clearing for the truck, the fire truck to use the runway, and also clearing for the plane to use the runway. And then they realize what's happened and they're like, "Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh shit, I messed up." And the messing up of doing multiple people's jobs at one time costs 2 people their lives.
Mm.
And so this is what is Air Canada jet carrying more than 70 passengers collided with the fire truck while landing at New York's LaGuardia Airport late Sunday, killing the pilot and the co-pilot and injuring several others. The fire truck was crossing the tarmac after an air traffic controller gave it permission to respond to another plane reporting an odor on board. Before the collision, an air traffic controller can be heard on airport communications frantically telling the fire truck to stop. In a transmission nearly 20 minutes later, the controller appears to blame himself. "We were dealing with an emergency earlier. I messed up."
Gosh.
About 40 passengers and crew members on the regional jet were taken to hospitals with some serious injuries. Most were released by Monday morning, authorities said. The impact crushed the regional jet's nose, leaving cables and debris dangling from the mangled cockpit. Images from the crash site showed the damaged fire truck flipped on to its side.
It's going to happen more and more. Literally, it's America destroying itself. We have more money than most countries. If we just chose to invest, but we chose not to. This was part and parcel. The first thing that Elon Musk did when he came in, if you remember, with Doge, did a massive hiring freeze. Remember that? On air traffic controllers. And then what happened? Fired folks. What did he do? He also got retribution against those people in the FAA that chose to fine him. And then what did he do? As a result of this is a necessary cost-cutting measures. When killed USAID, went and got rid of like the agency that of all the experts in the FAA. What did we see? Remember that? Near misses, near crashes, actual crashes. It was like one after another, after another, after another. Well, fast forward, now you're getting this, especially as there is a limited shutdown with DHS funding. There is a separate clean bill that the Democrats have introduced that can actually
seven times
that can pay TSA. All of them are on board. We just find out more and more every day that Donald Trump behind the scenes is the one who's killing it. He actually told Thune that no, not going to do it. So it's the Republicans hijacking it because they want Democrats to keep funding ICE fully, keep funding DHS fully, no conditions. You know, the same DHS that killed Renee Nicole Good and killed Alex Preddy and is terrorizing Americans on the streets and is wildly unpopular, right? So they could fund it, folks. I just wanted you to know, we could fund TSA. All of this is self-made disaster. All of this is self-made disaster going back a year. All this is them choosing to destroy our infrastructure, choosing to implement chaos for the LOLs, for the yucks. Isn't it hilarious? We totally own them and pawn them. And now what's happening in many, wait for it, red states and states that vote for Donald Trump. What's happening, Danielle, right now as we speak?
Well, now in 13 airports around the country, ICE agents have been deployed. And so let's just be clear. In Project 2025, one of the other key things in terms of privatizing everything was to literally do away with TSA.
Yep.
And there was a bill that was introduced, I think it was by Steve King, to eliminate TSA and privatize it. Now, folks, before you say, well, then that would be a great idea because they would all get paid. No, things that become privatized end up going to shit, right? There is a reason why TSA is government funded. And it is because you have the air traffic controllers, you have TSA, you have all of these things that need to be coordinated. And it is not a pay for play, right, situation, which is what privatization does. Right. And then we start cutting costs because guess what? The shareholders need to make money and then the CEOs need to make money. There's a reason why it has been government run. But privatization is all Republicans want because it puts more money in their pockets. So now we have ICE agents who are being paid these balloon salaries, who are undertrained on purpose, right? The only thing that they've been trained to do is to brutalize and kill. And instead of funding TSA in these separate opportunities that Democrats have put in front of Republicans, they are now giving these ballooned buffoons the opportunity to go into airports to stand behind TSA workers who are not being paid, or to just walk around and do absolutely nothing. They are not keeping any order. They're not helping anything go faster. But what they are doing is they have the ability to take your phone, to look through your phone. People are saying, lawyers are saying, take the biometrics off of your phone, which means take off the face ID opening of your phone, close down or turn your phone off completely. Because they are taking it, they are looking through your social media, they are looking through your text messages, and they have the ability to detain you. And what did the Supreme Court and Brett Kavanaugh say, Waj, about who they can choose to detain?
You can racially profile in California. Remember that? You could racially profile in California.
Yep.
Can't look at race when it comes to college admissions. Can't look at race when it comes to hiring. You can look at race to detain people. That's what Brett Kavanaugh said in one of the many emergency rulings that Donald Trump has used to rubber stamp all of his executive orders, thanks to the 6 compromised individuals in the Supreme Court. Brett Kavanaugh was the one. Oh, ICE, you want to racially profile to go after Latinos?
Mm-hmm.
Go for it. And now we have ICE at airports. And yesterday, Tom Homan, who, by the way, again, I want to remind people, we have him on camera. And by we, I mean the FBI has him on camera, literally
$50,000
in a kava bag, accepting a bribe. And he should be in jail. But the Department of Justice, run by the completely complicit Barbie Pam Bondi, decided to kill the investigation into their borders are Tom Homan accepting a bribe. Just want to remind people, because everyone's forgotten, the guy should be in jail. That Tom Homan, human concrete, yesterday on Fox said, ICE can check identification before people enter the screening area.
I'm going to play it. Let's take a listen.
Showing live pictures there as you were speaking in Atlanta at Hartsfield-Jackson Airport there, because it's just one of many spots with these bottlenecks. You mentioned sending in ICE. The president a short time ago on Truth Social said on Monday, so tomorrow, ICE will be going to airports to help our wonderful TSA agents who stayed on the job. He goes on and he ends it. He says they're going to do a fantastic job. And he says the great Tom Homan is in charge. Triple exclamation point. He's clearly been a fan of yours for a long time, but certainly in recent weeks. Can you tell us anything about how this would work with ICE showing up at the airports?
Well, we're finalizing plans today, but there's a lot of things that TSA does. It doesn't require like specialized training, right? Like you have exit lanes where people leave the airport. Now people try to enter those exit lanes. That's a security breach. Well, an ICE agent can maintain those exits, and that allows a TSA officer to go back to screening to move people through quicker. ICE can check identification before people enter the screening area, right? And we're trying to release TSA resources to get to positions that they really need expertise in, like the X-ray screening. So we're going to be a force multiplier. Now, I made it clear that I did an earlier interview. They said, well, ICE isn't trained on X-rays, and look at X-rays, see if there's is something dangerous in that luggage. Well, no kidding, and we're not going to be doing that. We're going to relieve TSA and augment TSA where we are trained in security and be able to do that. And that hopefully will move the lines quicker. But the president's made it clear. He's not going to let America be held hostage anymore. We're going to try to move those lines quicker.
You're not, okay. The training that we talked about a few weeks ago, that the whistleblower, the ICE whistleblower, sat down before Congress to say 204 hours had been cut from the ICE training, that they're no longer being trained on the Constitution. They're not being trained on de-escalation. They're not being trained on negotiation, conversation, any of those things. They are 47 days, right? As a nod to Donald Trump, people who are getting no background screening. So do you have multiple criminal infractions? Do you have associations with white nationalist organizations? None of that is being looked at because speed. We need to put these people on the ground. They're being given a gun and a badge and their cosplay uniform and are being put onto the streets. We have seen Keith Porter, Renee Good, Alex Preddy, and so many others whose names that we do not know, who have been killed or brutalized by ICE. And so now Tom Homan, sitting on Fox, is talking about, oh, well, we know that they're not trained to look at x-rays, but that's not what they're going to be doing. They're also not really trained to look at IDs, because how many videos, Waj, have we seen of Americans saying, here's my passport, here's my birth certificate, here's this, that, and the other thing, I am an American citizen, or here's my green card. And their skulls are still bashed, and they're still thrown in the back of unmarked vehicles.
Well, last time I checked, Renee Nicole Good is a citizen, born and raised in this country, a white woman. Last time I checked, Alex Preddy was a white man, citizen. Didn't matter. Their job is to brutalize and terrorize. They're being recruited in the swamps of America. They're recruited, being used. They're recruiting by appealing to white nationalism, white nationalist talking points. Folks, it is a precursor to fascism. ICE in the streets, normalized. ICE in schools, normalized. ICE shooting and killing people, normalized. ICE now in the airports, normalized. What do you think is going to happen in 6 months? ICE at the polling booths, normalized. If you look at us the wrong way, if you say the wrong thing, if you look wrong, if you go against Donald Trump, it's the Gestapo. And I would remind people the National Security Presidential Memo 7 that came out in September after the murder of Charlie Kirk by a white man from a Republican family, allegedly. They said that there are several factors of radical terrorism, radical leftist terrorism. One of them was anti-American sentiment. What does that mean? Another one was anti-Christian sentiment. Yep. What does that mean? What did they call Alex Preddy and Renee Nicole Good as they were shot and killed by ICE? What did Christy Noem call them? Domestic terrorist. And what we said is, if they can call Renee Nicole Good a domestic terrorist, they can call you a domestic terrorist. So if you just, I don't know, look at an ICE agent the wrong way and look terroristy, which is what Muslims have had to deal with since 9/11, or anyone who looks Muslim-y, what Black people have had to deal with, I don't know, their entire lives in this country. Now law enforcement has enough, I don't know, reasonable suspicion, probable cause to essentially just kill you. And now the rest of America is going to realize what's going to happen when there's going to be more violence, more disruptions. And this is, I hate, folks, this has been happening for a year. what finally made a few Trump voters, perhaps not Republicans, flip on Donald Trump? It wasn't, everything we just discussed. It was they saw gas going up to $4 to $5 a gallon. Once it started affecting them, you saw that last week, right, Danielle? Now imagine what's going to happen with these insane lines. The Homeland Security and TSA, just now, Homeland Security tweeted out, by the way, you're not supposed to have government agencies being completely politicized, but now they are. They're literally, Homeland Security just said, in addition to doing the white nationalist stuff, they said blame Democrats while looking at the line. And everyone's saying, who controls the House? Who controls the Senate? Who's the president? And who has rejected the 7 to 9 bills the Democrats have made, the clean bill to fund TSA? Republicans. I don't think this is going to work out, Danielle. I think most people realize Donald Trump is president. Republicans have the House. Republicans have the Senate. I think they're going to blame Republicans, and I don't think they care.
So here is Senator Whitehouse. We offered to fund TSA. No conditions. Republicans refused. They want the hostage to extract more ICE money with no ICE reforms. And again, I'm asking, why does ICE need more money? Like, what is it that you need more money for? So public clearing is scheduled for tomorrow here in DC, led by Blumenthal and Garcia, featuring young Americans, right? Will offer testimony about their personal experiences being assaulted or separated from their families by DHS agents. And Waj, look, I get the importance of hearings, but at this point in time, everything that is being done feels like political theater. It feels performative because it gives Democrats and Republicans an opportunity to have these pop-off moments where they get to use the clips to fundraise, but actually nothing happens. You haul these Marco Rubio, Kristi Noem, all of these people before Senate committees, Kash Patel, just so that they can sit there and lie to you. You know that they're lying to you, which means that they are lying to the American people. And what do we see over and over again? Nothing happens, right? Nothing happens. And so now what they are doing here, again, person says, Atlanta's TSA line hit 153 minutes at 6 a.m. The line is wrapping around baggage claim, right? Like, this is absolutely unnecessary. But I want to play a video because I tell you, I didn't watch The Handmaid's Tale. And I didn't watch The Handmaid's Tale because all I have to do is watch the news. The Handmaid's Tale was super dark and twisted, and everything is unfolding. This is a clip that people have been showing on social media over the weekend when Donald Trump and Tom Homan made the announcement about ICE going to the airport. And let me see if I can find it.
I see that happening in America. Don't you?
I mean, this is ICE agents in The Handmaid's Tale. They have taken over the airports. They are restricting travel. They had their paperwork, right? Here's my marriage certificate. Here's the emblem. Here's the seal. This is in reality. Here's my blue passport that says I'm an American citizen. I have my documentation. And what did they do? They pressed her down. They said, it's the law. What law? Did the law change from the moment they went from the parking lot into the building? This is what is happening right now, right? So you think that them putting the ICE agents in these airports, do you think that they're going to leave the airport anytime soon? Or do you think it's going to increase? Do you think does it feel more logical that freedom of movement is going to be restricted more and more and more? Because going to the airport is no longer going to be like, oh, I'm going to be late for my flight, or let me grab some food. It is going to be panic. It is going to be fear, which is going to send the industry going down because
that's it.
If it's not an emergency, who is going to stand in line for 5 and 6 hours every time that you have to fly, potentially be detained, harassed, physically abused, right? Or hauled off just because you're trying to go visit family members or go and take a vacation. It's not going to get better. It is going to get much, much worse.
Donald Trump, again, as we just mentioned, it's leaking that Donald Trump rejected Senate Majority Leader John Thune's proposal to fund DHS without ICE, saying he wants Republicans to fight Democrats over DHS funding and the SAVE Act. Trump now officially owns the chaos at airports nationwide. This was just according to Republicans against Trump. But Thune really desperately tried to go. It's also quoted Punchbowl News and says, okay, no deal with Democrats. And since they're all reeks, they have to agree with them. They can hold them accountable because, Republicans control the friggin' Senate, but they choose not to. So now it's on them. You're going to destroy your own economies. Because think about it. Basically what you just said, Danielle, real quick, is, Houston, Texas, Republican state, red state. Good luck, Texas. Talarico's climbing up there. It seems that your gerrymander is going to turn into a dummy mander. You are at the risk of losing the elections on top of the energy crisis and the oil crisis and unleashing ICE and losing independence and losing Latinos. That was before the Iran war. And Daniel, that was before what's happening in Houston. Some of the biggest lines were in Houston. I know some people, they're like, what the F, 6 hours. All right. So a lot of business is done in Texas. A lot of people fly in, a lot of people fly out. What's going to happen in Texas? What's going to happen to the economy, Danielle?
I mean, it's going to crumble because you have to think about airports, right? One, we always joke, right? Everything is much more expensive at the airport, right? Food, everything. So if I'm standing in line for 6 hours just trying to get through TSA, do you know what I'm not also doing at the airport? I'm no longer buying food. I'm no longer going to duty free. I'm no longer going to shop because I barely have enough time to just make it through. So again, the stores, the industry, I'm no longer like, the Ubers, the restaurants, the hotels, all of these things, everything is connected. And it becomes a ripple effect. So you are going to see, one, you already have airlines telling you we're raising prices. What happened the last time that they raised prices, right? They never went back down. You pay for your seat, you pay for overhead, you pay to breathe on the plane. So now they're like, well, we have to raise it again because what? The price of gas is so high. So price of gas is so high. And now on top of which my plane ticket costs more. And now it takes me 6 hours to get through TSA. The whole experience is an absolute fucking disaster. And again, I'm risking physical injury and emotional harm and trauma just to go from place to place. The entire travel industry is going to collapse.
But
And
guess
why
what?
is it? Because of this. Because of the $38.3 billion Donald Trump wants to spend on a new detention model. Instead of paying TSA, they want more money for DHS so that they can create bigger concentration camps to hold more people, to hold all of us, right? That's what they want. And they need to hit those numbers. And the way that they hit those numbers that Stephen Miller put out, those quotas of people that you pick up, even if they're released, is that you give them access to shooting fish in a barrel, which is exactly what the airport is. You're talking about facilities, they said, for 92,000 beds. Meanwhile, the facilities that they currently have, they don't care about clean water. They don't care about hygiene. They don't care about quality food. There's no outdoor time, again, because they're operating outside of the normal prison industrial complex. They don't have to follow those rules. It's just the way that things have declined so rapidly. I mean, folks, we're talking about 15 months at this point now, 15, 16 months of this regime. And this is where we are. And so, now we'll switch gears and we'll go to talk about the war.
Yay!
Move from the war that Donald Trump is waging on American citizens, and we'll now travel over to Iran, where Netanyahu was able to convince this puppet idiot to enter into a war that no other president did beforehand because they knew what the repercussions would be. So here is Donald Trump using the White House official handle to make yet another threat to Iran. Doesn't fully open without a threat the Strait of Hormuz within 48 hours from this exact point in time. The United States of America will hit and obliterate the various power plants, starting with the biggest one. This is what he said. Iran's representative to the International Maritime Organization says all ships, except those of enemy states, can transit the Strait of Hormuz, provided they coordinate security and safety arrangements. So guess who the strait is closed to? It's not blocked. It's closed to the United States and Israel and those that affiliate with the United States and Israel. Then can you tell them what Donald Trump did after his big bad threat?
So, folks, Donald Trump imposed upon himself a 2-day deadline to basically threaten Iran and said, Iran, if you don't comply within 48 hours, there's going to be hell to pay and I'm going to bomb your infrastructure. Okay. So today, if you've been doing the math, was the 2-day deadline.
Mm-hmm.
And so Iran, so far in the last 2 days, everything that we've heard from Iran is like, go F yourself. So Donald Trump then said, because he realizes, whoops, my threat was completely impotent, much like me. So let me just make shit up and say, I'm pleased to report the United States of America and the country of Iran have had over the last 2 days very good and productive conversations regarding a complete and total resolution of our hostilities in the Middle East. Based on the tenor and tone of these depth and detail, we'll continue throughout the week. Thank you for the attention to this matter. Okay, reality. As of 51
wait,
minutes,
here's the reality. Go ahead.
Right. There's no direct contact with Trump, not even through intermediaries. Trump retreated after hearing that our targets would be all power plants in West Asia. That's Iranian state media at 4:50 a.m. From 52 minutes ago. Here is the Speaker of Iran's parliament, who some have said has been negotiating with the U.S. He says no negotiations have taken place and that President Trump is claiming otherwise to manipulate markets. Iranian people demand complete and remorseful punishment of the aggressors. All Iranian officials stand firmly behind their supreme leader and people until this goal is achieved. No negotiations have been held with the U.S., and fake news is used to manipulate the financial and oil markets and escape the quagmire in which the U.S. and Israel are trapped. That was about 55 minutes ago.
Because what is happening every time that Donald Trump makes one of these threats, and it's very interesting because folks are saying, follow the patterns. Donald Trump will issue a threat on a Friday right before the markets close, only to be able, and who knows, right? Like who gets the inside scoop of when Donald Trump is going to issue a threat that is either going to send oil skyrocketing or it's going to send it in a downward spiral, right? And then those that are holding on to those particular industries and those things, guess what they do? They sell or they buy. And then on Monday, Donald Trump always chickens out. He always backs out because it is about manipulating the markets so that they can do these short sales. They do not care about the pensions that are tied up in the markets. They don't care about your 401ks. It is about the rich getting richer. What did Barron do? His child of the corn son. What did he do right before Donald Trump declared war on Iran? He bought barrels of oil. What did the other dum-dums do? Eric and Don Jr. Where did their investments go right before Donald Trump went into war with Iran? Into drone companies. This is a money-making grift. And on top of which, here is the Financial Times, which is reporting, even without the energy shocks, there's a pretty good chance that the closure of Hormuz will pop the AI bubble and lead to a stock market crash. The longer the Strait of Hormuz remains closed, the deeper the fallout will be. 1/5 of the world's oil and LNG is shipped through the waterway. If the conflict lingers, chip prices will steepen as manufacturers ration and compete for tighter supplies. Eventually, production could seize up. In the U.S., elevated energy costs would make present and future data centers less viable. High-tech valuations will unwind, and debt borrowed against AI assets would be at risk. This was already beginning to be an issue. Then, on top of that, you have the fertilizer prices at near 4-year high, up 44%. Food inflation is coming because, again, if the farmers, we're talking about seasons of when they need to plant and when they need to harvest. What do you need in order to do that? Fertilizer. Where does the fertilizer go through? The Strait of Hormuz. Again, why did other administrations never want to preemptively strike Iran? Because now the world is recognizing just how powerful Iran is when it comes to our connectivity, our energy, our technology, and our food systems.
Well, it gets worse. Give him more. Tell him what else is going on.
Let me tell you what else is going on. So here is this. Helium is a key input in chip making, space rockets, and medical imaging. Qatar supplies a third of the world's helium. Well, what does that mean? Oh, okay, let me tell you. Iran's attack this week on Qatar's natural gas export facility threatens to disrupt not just world energy markets, but also global technology supply chains, because the helium it produces is crucial for a range of advanced industries. Best known as the gas that makes party balloons float, helium is also a key input in chip making, space rockets, and medical imaging. Qatar supplies a third of the world's helium, according to the U.S. Geological Survey, but the nation had to halt production shortly after the war erupted 3 weeks ago. The latest Iranian strikes against the region's energy producing infrastructure have added to supply worries. The Qatar's state-owned gas company saying it would crimp helium exports by 14%. And just a little bit of background. Helium is a byproduct of natural gas production when it's separated out by cryogenic distillation. Qatar, which sits on the world's biggest single natural gas field, produces 30%. Qatar's helium is produced at where? Ras Laffan facility, the world's largest liquefied natural gas plant. But state-owned energy company Qatar halted production of LNG when what? On March 2nd, Iran's drone attacks, and 2 days later declared force majeure because Iran went directly for the Ras Laffan facility. Because guess who is in bed with the United States? Qatar. Guess who gave Donald Trump the $400 million plane as a bribe for protection so that they can continue with their luxury image? Qatar. Guess who is fucked right now? Qatar.
Well, guess not just Qatar. Not just Qatar. Guess who went all in with Donald Trump, as was perfectly fine with the collapse of the post-World War II order and the collapse of democracy and the genocide of Palestinians and a potential ban against Muslims? Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia. They said, you know what? It's good for business. You know what? It's transactional. You know what? Let's do business. Let's give you a $400 billion plane. And, you come in and you start up some resorts and let's give Jared $2 billion and let's just buy. Hey, Donald Trump's good for our business. Danielle, can you tell us what's happening right now in Dubai and Qatar and Bahrain and Saudi Arabia? And, are they safe? Are they stable? Are they secure right now in the past 4 weeks?
No, and people are trying to leave there en masse. Their energy sector is potentially screwed for the next 5 to 10 years because the investments that they put in to build these facilities, it's going to take that amount of money or more to rebuild the destruction that Iran was able to do. And again, why did no one else decide to do this? Because of this reason. What's really interesting is that the world, and particularly Americans who don't know anything other than what is on their front porch, are getting a geological lesson right now, a geography lesson, a geological lesson, like why these areas that United States imperialism have just seen as these places to extract and move leaders around like pawns on a board, kill, do whatever. Now you're understanding why they are so incredibly important. And why did we enter into this war? Because of Israel. And you know what's really interesting is that I don't know if it was one of the foreign minister in Turkey or the foreign minister in Iran that said that Israel is the greatest threat in the Middle East, not anyone else, because of their desire to protect themselves and defend themselves at the cost of everything else. They have literally caused a global recession, a global shutdown is happening because of Israel, because of a preemptive strike. While we found out a week ago, we were very close to another peace deal that might have even been better than what Obama put together. But Netanyahu wanted war.
Can I give you some breaking news, and then we'll pivot right back of how this chaos could have been avoided? And electing Donald Trump isn't just Donald Trump; it also impacts the Supreme Court. Supreme Court appears poised to reject Mississippi law on late arriving ballots. The case could upend the way states handle ballots that are postmarked by Election Day but arrive later. President Trump has called for restrictions on mail-in voting. What do you think is going to happen? Real quick, Danielle.
I mean, again, for all the people that are crossing their fingers and toes and waiting for midterms to save you from this fascist takeover, why are there no signs out? Why are Republicans not working overtime knowing that the poll numbers are in the garbage? Because they own the Supreme Court and they know that Donald Trump has already stolen this election.
They're rigging it. They're trying to rig it. Why is he perfectly fine with 6-hour lines in Atlanta? Because he is wanting to put Democrats into a headlock to fund DHS and the SAVE Act, to pass the SAVE Act. The SAVE Act will act as a modern disenfranchisement of American citizens. The unfettered funding of DHS without any guardrails whatsoever is going to unleash ICE, the Gestapo, across any institution, airports, schools. Wait for it. Polling booths. Who said that they're going to have ICE patrol polling booths? Steve Bannon. Republicans doubled down on it. Voter intimidation, voter suppression, take away people's right to vote. If you're stuck in line and there's chaos, which there has been, we saw that in Texas, right? We saw that in Texas just a couple of weeks ago, deliberate chaos where people went to their usual polling booths and they're like, oh, sorry, didn't you get the memo? Yeah, last month we changed it. You have to go to this other part. And then they went and then they made it late. And then guess what happened? Jasmine Crockett, she tried her best. She goes, whoa, 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 stay in line, stay in line. And then Abbott came and said, nope, let's quash that. Any ballot received after 7 p.m. has to be thrown out. That's what the Supreme Court is saying right now. Let's make it impossible.
It was a dry run.
It was a dry run. And, you know, late arriving ballots, you got to throw them out. That's the cutoff date. Sorry. So what is going to happen? They're doing everything in their power. Everything in their power to rig the upcoming elections is exactly what Danielle and I have been warning about for years. He will not leave legally. He will not leave peacefully. We just ask you to trust the evidence of your eyes and your ears. They want to get rid of mail-in ballots. They're doing voter suppression. Now, if you're in line late, you did everything right, but guess there's, not enough workers or there's chaos. And suppose you cast in your ballot at 7:01. Sorry, your vote doesn't count. They're going to do this. There's 6 hacks on that Supreme Court groomed by right-wing money. They're dominionists. They don't care about the rule of law. They just care about their rapture. They care about feathering their nest. We have corruption here and we have corruption abroad. Money is destroying everything. And that money comes through AIPAC and other pro-Israel, if you will, organizations and billionaires such as Larry Ellison, who was the single largest donor to Friends of Israel. Guess what Larry Ellison owns now? TikTok.
Everything.
Guess what his son owns now? Everything. Warner Brothers, friggin' Paramount,
CNN,
PBS,
Paramount,
CNN.
BET.
And can you tell him what Israel's doing? What's Israel doing right now?
Bombing Lebanon.
Bombing Lebanon. 1 million people displaced in Lebanon. 2 million people displaced in Gaza, 3 million people displaced in Iran. Israel has bombed desalination plants, a war crime. Israel has bombed oil refineries. I don't know if you've seen the latest photo, literally poisoning the air of Tehran, a capital of nearly 10 million people. We're now finally talking about Israeli settlers in the West Bank, literally just going
bum rushing,
apocalyptic, burning. It's so bad what's happening in the West Bank, folks, that even the most insane pro-Israel supporters that I have to debate on Piers Morgan have come out and said, whoa, this is bad. Because they realize, oh shit, a majority of Americans are against Israel. A majority of Americans are pro-Palestinian. A majority of Americans hate this war. Latest reports yesterday from Huffington Post, Akbar Shahid Ahmed released that said a lot of the troops going to the Middle East, like, we don't want to die for Israel. That's an exact quote. Now you're seeing Israeli settlers without any accountability, as the IDF is just sitting there, literally torching buildings, taking over Palestinian villages with that complete impunity. And then what we talked about last week was 5 Israeli soldiers who were caught on camera raping a prisoner. Charges were dropped, and they were seen as heroes, applauded as heroes, all right, by Israeli society. There is something when I talk to many people who are liberal or progressive Zionists who have ties to Israel, they say, you know what, Israeli society, they hate Netanyahu. Sure, and Israeli society isn't like this. I'm sorry. 80 to 85% of Israelis, when they were polled, said they support this war. Israeli society is perfectly fine with the genocide in Gaza. Israeli society is perfectly fine with the expansionist maximal plan to take over from the river to the sea, and now, I guess, Lebanon. Israeli society has gone hardcore right-wing in the past 10 years. And what we found out over the weekend, which just more and more articles repeat the same thing, is exactly what Marco Rubio said. Marco Rubio said, remember, Danielle, we'd like to bring receipts. There was no imminent threat. Israel was going to attack Iran anyway. Because Israel was set on attacking Iran, we realized there might be retaliation that might threaten American security. So we preemptively, proactively attacked Iran. Joint attack. Donald Trump said, yep, we're attacking with Iran. They're so stupid, they should have said, well, Iran's attacking, let's help. Oh, no. They said, nope, we're doing this with Iran. What did they do, Danielle? Killed Ayatollah Khamenei, the supreme leader, during Ramadan. What did they also do? What did American Tomahawk missiles do? Blew up a school.
165 little girls.
And can you tell us the New York Times reporting?
I mean, and here's
also Bloomberg reporting.
Yeah, and here is the report. Netanyahu embraced a plan by Mossad chief to ignite a regime change uprising in Iran for a quick victory. He used it to help convince Trump to start the war despite doubts among some senior U.S. and Israeli officials. It was a critical flaw in the war plans. Like, to say that this was a flaw that has now cost over 1,300 lives, probably more. The lives of American soldiers included in that, displaced millions of people. And then because we're running up on time, but there are 2 things that I want to show before we go, which is, where are the supposed Democratic hopefuls, right, on this issue right now? As we have said time and time again on Democracy-ish, and I've said on the Danielle Moody Show, that the polling of where American people are with Israel versus Palestine for the first time is that America is on the side of Palestine. When you are on social media right now, where are Americans in terms of supporting this war versus supporting Iran? Americans are supporting Iran. What is the Democratic establishment doing? Oh, here is Governor Josh Shapiro, who is, again, in this conversation around 2028, which we just told you, don't even talk to me about midterms and 2028 when we are in the midst of a fascist takeover. Folks, like, it's nonsensical to be holding on to these like fever dreams of of Democrats winning, when we are literally telling you all of the ways that it's almost going to be impossible for people to be able to vote. And they're going to pass the SAVE Act, which is going to disenfranchise 70 million people, 70 million women. But this is what Shapiro says in his support for Israel, a regime that we literally just said murdered children. Have you seen latest pictures of Gaza? Down to, I mean, there are no studs, just rubble.
And
right?
look at the West Bank, folks. Just Google West Bank right now.
And this is what Josh Shapiro had the audacity to say. For those who begin by suggesting Israel doesn't have the right to exist as a Jewish state, I think that is a recipe for permanent war. I want to see peace in the region. I also do think it's a sort of interesting that you've got 46 nations around the world where the majority religion is Islam. 23 of them recognize Islam as the official state religion. One has the official state religion of Judaism, and that's the one we keep talking about here. Oh, I don't know why we keep talking about it. Maybe because they've murdered hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. Maybe because they've just brought the world into a global economic recession and a possible World War III. Maybe that's why. And maybe because those other nations were formed, I don't know, thousands of years ago, millennia ago, right? So again, we're going to close out on this, which is...
Also, he does such damage, just like Jonathan Greenblatt. They do such damage when they equate Israel, a nation state, to Jews and Judaism. You're literally doing the jobs of anti-Semites and white nationalists by saying, oh, Israel is behaving on behalf of Jewish people and Judaism. No, it is not. It is a nation state run by a genocidal regime that has, in my opinion, nothing to do with Judaism. And thankfully, a majority of American Jews reject it. When you go out of your way by saying it is a Jewish state and represents Jews and Judaism, what are you talking about? You're literally telling people, hey, see that guy displacing 1 million Lebanese and see them killing all those Palestinians? Jews. So what are you going to get? You're going to get blowback, and people are going to target innocent Jews. That's what's going to happen. My family was killed in Lebanon. I'm going to go attack a synagogue. These folks are willing to destroy American democracy, Israel, the safety and security of Jews, Palestinians. That's a given, right? For the sake of Israel. Now we're willing to literally weaken and cripple ourselves as a superpower for the sake of Israel. When do we say enough is enough, folks? Enough is enough. And guess what? We're going to end on this, but I think it's important. I talked about this, I think yesterday. I was supposed to do a 15-minute video. It ended up being 50 minutes. Going back full circle, folks, that I've been traveling a lot. I'm going to tell you all something. And I'm going to name drop him also. He's a friend of mine because we've been talking about it. I hope he doesn't mind. Mehdi Hassan and I have talked about this for the past 6 months. We travel a lot, okay? People are underestimating how many Americans, normies, people who are middle class, upper middle class, suburban, not MAGA, have been radicalized by Israel. Number one. You have no idea how people have been radicalized by the failure of our institutions, the Epstein class. You know what? Everyone's corrupt. People are now going back to 9/11 conspiracy theories. People love Candace Owens, not just the right wing anymore. People listen to, wait for it, Danielle, Tucker Carlson. Yep. People listen to even Nick Fuentes. They get bits, chunks. They don't get the whole thing. It goes like wildfire. And they say, wow, look, Candace and Tucker are the only ones in American media calling out Israel. Yep. They're the only ones who don't bend the knee. And what I've said is all these Democrats are progressive on everything except Palestine, right? Peter Beinart coined it, PEP, progressive on everything except Palestine. Yep. And you've seen in 2024 what happened. Let's do a quick recap. I know Danielle's got to go. Please, 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 we begged Kamala Harris, break away from Biden on Gaza. They said, shut up. Only Arabs and Palestinian Muslims care. We don't care about them. We care about Liz Cheney. We said, no. This entire generation around the world has been radicalized by Gaza. Can you at least bring a Palestinian speaker on stage next to the Jewish mother? Shut your mouth. No, our donors said no. Shut up. All right. What happened? YouGov poll came out. Number one reason why so many Democrats stayed at home, not the only reason, number one reason, Gaza. Now you've seen the polls. More people are pro-Palestinian than Israel. Now you've seen AIPAC literally meddling in New Jersey, in Illinois, in North Carolina, again and again and again. It's become mainstream news. What does Chuck Schumer do? Spends the summer smearing Mamdani. Is more comfortable bear-hugging Netanyahu last summer, still has not taken that chummy photo with Mamdani. What does he do on February? And it says, as a Senate minority leader, Democrat, my job is to ensure Israel gets all the aid that it wants. What happens to people like me and Mehdi when we go on television by virtue of being brown and Muslim? Danielle, do you condemn Hamas? Do you condemn Hezbollah? Do you condemn, yada, yada, yada? Does Israel have a right to exist? The question is never asked, do you condemn, a genocide against Palestinians? Do you condemn the occupation? Do you condemn the apartheid? Do you condemn Israeli settlers literally burning Palestinian villages? No one's ever asked that, right? What we keep getting asked is, does Israel have the right
to exist?
And who's the person? What have you and I said? If you seed the ground, someone's going to step in and say what everyone else is feeling. Who's the person saying it? The world's worst person. A cynical, cash-grabbing white nationalist named Tucker Carlson. He's come into this space, and I'm telling you, folks, he has won over a lot
of people. We're going to play the clip because I think that it's incredibly important, because I watched it. I sent it to Waj over the weekend, and I was like, oh my God. And I said, because what is happening when we are living in a world where I have to play clips of Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene, and they are making more sense and having deeper conversations than the supposed Democratic establishment? What does it say when we know that Tucker Carlson is a racist and an anti-Semite, and that what's behind what he is saying are those sentiments, but that our own Democratic establishment won't listen to quote unquote progressives, won't listen to young people? As Hillary Clinton said, yes, TikTok did radicalize them when it came to Gaza. You mean because they're watching a genocide happen live streamed, right? So we have to shut down the platform that they're able to see the truth without it being whitewashed through corporate mainstream media. So here is Tucker Carlson, who challenges The Economist magazine, their editor-in-chief, on her question of whether or not Israel has the right to exist. Folks, take a listen to what is being said here.
Are critical of the government of Israel. Do you believe in Israel's right to exist? Would you consider yourself a Zionist in that narrow definition?
What does that mean, a right to exist?
The existence of the political state of Israel as
but
it
has
existed,
a right. What does that mean?
That you think it should continue in its existence as a state right now. So you do not agree with Iran, for example.
Well, let me just ask, since you asked me the question, it's fair for me to get you to define the term so I can answer it. You've asked two questions. The first was, do you believe Israel has a right to exist? And the second question was, do you believe Israel should continue to go on as a nation state? And those are very different questions. So I often hear the phrase... Having
been created as a political entity in 1948,
does it have a right to exist? Is that what you're asking?
I don't want to get hung up on the right.
No.
Should it continue? That's how I define narrowly Zionism.
Because the phrase you used was devised by the Israeli government. Of course, does it have a right to exist? And so my question to you would be, what does that mean?
Why don't you answer my question? It's a very simple question.
I don't know what your question is. Are you asking, does it have a right to exist, or do I want it to exist? Do I seek its destruction?
Fine, answer it that way.
Well, of course I don't seek its destruction. I've already said, as you know, because I said it to you, I don't want Israel to be destroyed or have to use nuclear weapons.
We've established that you are in that narrow terms a Zionist. If that's how
I'm in no sense a Zionist. I don't want any country to be destroyed at all, and I don't want people to die, particularly ones who committed no crime, because I don't believe in killing innocents, period. That's the basis of Western civilization. Eastern civilization is a whole different view. They believe in collective punishment. I don't.
So you're in no sense a Zionist?
I don't even know what that means. Why don't you define the term, and then I'll tell you whether I am.
I've just defined it.
What's a Zionist?
That a Zionist, in my narrow term, this definition is that the state of Israel, the political state of Israel, has the right to continue existing.
The right? Where does that right come from? What do you mean? These are I'm not being a lawyer about it. I just want to know what you're asking me.
You refusing to answer the question.
Because I don't know what you're asking me.
Let's go to the
Wait, no. I think a lot. You don't want to define your question, and I don't know why. I don't know what you're asking me. I've already said I don't want Israel to be destroyed. I don't want anyone to be killed. And you've said, does Israel have a right to exist? Does it have my question is, What right are you talking about? Does Britain have a right to exist? Does the United States have a right to exist?
There was a world order built up after 1945 which suggested that aggression should not be condoned into countries. That countries with borders have the right to intervene.
I totally agree with that.
Okay.
Which is why the first thing that Israel did within 2 weeks of this war starting, which is supposedly existential for them, was take southern Lebanon, take someone else's country, as they have done repeatedly. And no one even mentions that. And so I guess I would be opposed to that, because I think Lebanon has a right to exist. I thought Gaza had a right to exist. But I noticed that as soon as we start apportioning rights, only one country gets them.
No, I did not say that. You're absolutely putting words into my mouth.
So because I believe, here's what I do believe, since you asked. I believe in universally applicable standards. And if they're not universally applicable, they're not standards, they're preferences. That's why I believe in human rights, not ethnic rights. I don't think Jews have more rights or less rights than anyone else. I don't think Christians have more rights or less rights, blacks, Filipinos. I believe in human rights that derive from the creation of people by God.
Danielle,
I mean,
I'll tell you what I said when I saw the clip. I tweeted it. I'll read my tweet. And it went slightly viral on a health site. Democratic leadership has no idea how many people are being won over by Tucker Carlson and MTG right now over Israel. No clue. None. They'll stick with Netanyahu and AIPAC even as it drags the party and American security down the toilet. I stand by what I wrote.
look, the question you like, and I appreciate what you set up earlier. You, Mehdi, Eamon, none of y'all could have that conversation, could say
Nope.
what it is that could say what it is that Tucker Carlson said, which is asking for the define that question to me, right? Like, talk to me like I'm 5. When you say the right to exist, what does that mean? Does that mean because I would have, does that mean the right to destroy? Does that mean the right to create genocide? Does that, what are you talking about? Because then what he said, because if we're talking about a right and it's not disseminated across the board equally, then it's not a right, it's a preference. And the preference has been that Israel has the right to defend itself and everyone else has the right to exist on their knees. That is where we are.
And listen, folks, Tucker Carlson sees where the wind is blowing. Tucker Carlson is a racist. Tucker Carlson, according to the New York Times, had one of the most racist shows in the history of television. Tucker Carlson promoted and amplified white nationalist conspiracy theories and helped them go mainstream. Tucker Carlson is a capitalist. Tucker Carlson will always get paid. Tucker Carlson is a 1%er. Tucker Carlson has worked for CNN, MSNBC, and Fox and got fired by all 3. Candace Owens is also a capitalist. Candace Owens is also very smart, sees where the wind is blowing. 2 things can be true at the same time, right? That they are great at what they do, they manipulate, and furthermore, they realize as conservatives, this is key, and especially as a white male conservative, he can say things that Danielle and I will never, ever, 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 ever be allowed to say. If we said a fraction of what these conservatives said, we wouldn't even be independent anymore. Like,
right.
YouTube would just say no to us, to our face, right? Because as conservatives, because we have shifted the Overton window, because they work the refs, because all corporations bend the knee, because mainstream media bends the knee, because there's affirmative action for it, because they're loosey, they can say anything and get away with it. Which is why, by ceding the ground to them, what Democrats have done have ceded this huge salient talking point that they should have run with. They should have pushed back. What do you mean? Israel has the right. What do you mean? I can't defend Israel. What do you mean? We can't, can't criticize Netanyahu. What do you mean? Like, they didn't do any of that. What they did instead was they took money from AIPAC. They said, their leader said, my number one job as Senate Minority Leader is to make sure Israel is funded. He said that February 1st weekend to go against Mamdani and try to support Cuomo. Okay. And Tucker and Candace and MTG saw a wide open lane. And they're like, oh, America first. Why are we dying for Israel? And they're saying all the things that they should have said. And they're asking all the questions that any corporate media anchor should have asked. There's 3 interviews that Tucker has done. He's done basic softball questions. He did follow-ups. Dismantled Ted Cruz. When Ted Cruz says the Bible says we have to support Israel.
Huckabee.
Destroyed Huckabee, who literally is dining with Jonathan Pollard, a spy in Israel, and said that, Israel has the biblical right to majority of the Middle East if it wants it. Crushed him, and now destroyed this lady because no one has ever dared challenge it. And again, to Danielle's point, if Ayman, myself, and Mehdi did exactly what he did, we'd be destroyed. So he did it, folks. And I'll tell you something else. Here's another one. We've been warning about this for a while. AI. Who has gone further to the left than the Democratic leadership in criticizing AI? Tucker
Carlson,
MTG, and Steve Bannon.
Yep.
Who's getting paid now? Who is funneling billions of dollars to the Democratic primary races? AI and crypto. So, Danielle, how do you think this is going to work out?
Well, we have said it time and time again, and we will wrap up here, which is that you don't take care of Donald Trump, just like America did not take care of the war criminal George W. Bush. What came after George W. Bush was Donald Trump, right? What comes after Donald Trump is going to be a President Carlson, a President Fuentes, a President Green that is going to be open Nazi. But there are concentric circles, right, where you are seeing the ideology of the far left supposedly intersect with the far right, which is that why are we sending our tax dollars to a nation state that has free healthcare and free education, and we here in the United States are struggling, right? These are questions that progressive has asked and right-wingers have asked, right? And questions that Democrats are not answering and refuse to answer while they take money from corporations, why they take money from the Jewish lobby. Like, this is the problem that Democrats are setting up, because this is what happens when you stay silent. You become complicit. So, folks, I mean,
they're going to stay silent. They're still going to stay silent. This is how I just want people to realize it's been 10 years. Going back to that conversation I had with Hakeem Jeffries, myself, and Joyanne Reed, I gave him like a meatball down the middle.
Will you continue to take money from AIPAC is the question that you asked. And he said, I'm going to continue doing what I have been doing. And I'm telling you, listen to these people when they tell you, when they speak the truth about where they're aligned, where they're putting their resources and their power behind. It is not the American people. And that is the truth. It is whoever is putting money in their pockets. It is why Hakeem Jeffries has become a bagman for AIPAC, spreading their money around so that Democrats that are running for office can say, I'm not taking money from AIPAC, but I'm taking money from these other entities. Folks, we got to wrap up. But before we get out of here, I do want to thank all of the super stickers and super thanks, folks, for rocking with us. We did a super jam-packed show, which is essentially what's been happening every Monday, because over the weekend there is no sleep. Susan, our fantastic moderator, thank you so much for the $10. Jimmy, thank you so much for the $5. Mr. Will, thank you so much for the 10. Susan again. Meme Walker, thank you so much. Eternal Energy, appreciate you for the $9.99. Phoebe, absolutely incredibly generous. Thank you for the $100. My friend, thank you for 10. Scott, thank you for becoming a member of the channel. Creative, thank you for the $9.99. K Brahms for the $1.99. Every dollar counts. Thank you, DJ. Susan again for 10, and Kenyon for $10. Folks, my show, The Danielle Moody Show, will be live at 5 p.m. Eastern. Waj, tell people where you are today. And again, I'm running a special for the rest of the month on the Damn Digest, 20% off. You can find that at daniellemoody.substack.com. Damn Sale. Waj is also on Substack running a special, the left hook.substack.com/special. Waj, where are you for the rest of the day?
Folks, I'm going to do something wild. I have a flight to catch. So I was going to jam pack like 2 episodes in between and try to work out. So what I'm going to try to do is go for a quick run now that Ramadan's over, pack, and instead get to the airport a lot earlier than I usually do. I have TSA pre-check. I have clear. It's pretty close to my house, but I want to get there because I don't know what the F's going to happen. So I'm going to do something very rare. I'm only going to do today's episode. So we did a supersized episode. As such, I hope you enjoyed. For the 2,000 plus people watching on Substack, there's a whole bunch of people watching on Daniel's Substack. If you can, please subscribe. Subscribe to Damn Digest. Subscribe to The Left Hook. It goes a long way. We're completely independent. As Danielle said, we have these specials on. We depend on the kindness of strangers. It's only $3.75 a month forever. If you click on the specials, it goes a long way. If you've enjoyed us, please become a paid subscriber if you think we're worth $3.75 a month. Also, you'll be watching us on YouTube. Danielle has a fantastic YouTube channel. I have a YouTube channel. If you're watching this on YouTube, just like it and subscribe. It's all free. There are no paywalls. Thank you all for watching. I will be back tomorrow if I can make it to San Francisco.
Keep us posted on social.
And we'll be back Wednesday, inshallah, if I make it back home at 3 p.m. for a midweek check-in.
All right, friends, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and please, oh, please do not be a fascist. Safe travels to you, Waj. We'll be following you on social and hope that everything goes well.